Hi everyone, it's Matt with Mineral Stains. Today we're going to go more in depth as far as what is masonry stain and brick staining and what we're hoping to achieve using these products. So we'll start from scratch. You decide to buy a house or you already own a house and you just don't like the way the exterior looks, whether it's a yellow brick, whether it's a pink brick, a stone that could be multicolored. It's just, it's driving you crazy. And then you're looking for a solution. So the problem usually comes up where you want to update a color to a new color that's going to make you feel good, right? Like the curb appeal. And then secondly, you're going to look at which products are best. Many times where this gets overlooked is we're looking to update the brick or any type of masonry, and then we don't do enough research. We end up hiring a local painter, which most times are going to be either using PPG or Sherwin-Williams with a great discount that they get from each manufacturer at the end of the day. So in this case, I'm going to pick on Loxon. As we see a lot of different brick houses that are getting painted over and over. And most of these products, if not all, are either based on acrylic, latex, elastomeric finishes. And so I'm going to show you pretty much the difference when we talk about the difference of masonry and brick staining. So our primer, our Eco Prim, if you look at this particle, it almost looks like a quartz crystal once it dries and crystallizes within, right? Then we add a colorant, and that is a finished product. It almost looks like a rock if you think about it. So it goes from here to basically here. Primer is the same material. Stain is with the additives, and obviously colorants, and this is what you get. So when a project starts, you don't do your due diligence. And if you find my channel, I'm assuming that you've done enough due diligence to pick out a product that's going to be best on masonry. But in the equation of most average folks that just want to get their brick updated, they're going to call the next best painter, for instance, with the 5-star reviews or a recommendation. If that painter or installer has never used a true potassium silicate, or even so much as aroma bio product, they're going to go with the next best thing that they're used to. Most times they're not trying to do a disservice for you, but this is all they know. So it's very important as a developer, builder, especially homeowner, if you're going to live there, that you take the time and learn about these products. And I always state, if Sherwin-Williams had a true silicate product, they would not be using, for instance, Chyme, which is our competitor, and then they would be selling that in some of the local stores for that reason. So when you get back to the actual chemistry of each product, a Waterglass is a totally different product in theory. Now, per German and European standards, to have a true silicate, we're allowed up to 4% acrylic. So the acrylic is going to actually help bind the color with the Waterglass and put everything else together. Without the 3 to 4% of acrylic in the product, the Waterglass could actually harden and turn to something like this. Now, the acrylic is so small in percentage that once you actually apply your brick or masonry stain, it almost like it disperses. So it's not really a factor where, oh, I have acrylic. That's not the case here. The difference is when you put 30 to 40 to 50% acrylic in a latex acrylic coating, then you have much more acrylic than you need to begin with. So that's the biggest factor and difference between the two different coatings. So if you have found my channel, you will probably do enough research to where you know the difference. What we're trying to achieve is to get in front of the painters, architects, developers, even realtors, to get that information out to a consumer that's going to use the right coating. Now, there are several factors for that. Interest rates are higher, so houses are not selling as much. The usual 4 to 6 year lifespan people buying, selling, moving may now be 8, 10, 12 years, for example. So as a homeowner, you would think that you want to invest in a better product, a more longevity product, and then, you know, do right for others as you would do to yourself. If you end up leaving the property, at least you have a good peace of mind that you use the right product. Now, if you use a latex acrylic coating, here's the other difference. Waterglass ages very slowly. And when you use earth and mineral pigments, that's where you could get up to 20 years or more, depending on your substrate and the quality of your brick home or stone, EFS, stucco. When you use a regular paint, 3 to 5 years, what's known as resin is the protector film on that paint. And that is going to wear down over time. And that's another factor to consider, that if you end up staying in the house and you did a project not knowing that silicates exist, you're going to have to repeat that project every so often. So 3 to 5 years later, I could tell you two things. Inflation's going to be higher, prices are going to be higher. Your installer, if he charges $150 to $400 a day, is most likely going to be higher. So the other thing that's good about using silicates is if you could get that many years, you're not having to redo these projects, right? Like HVAC, electrical thing. Well, not electrical, but like HVAC is a great example. The units are not made as good as they once were. The technicians come out at least a couple times to once a year to service the product. And if you don't do it, the service or the actual system tends to break down quicker. The sears are a little bit thinner. So not to get off topic here, but my point is that you are investing in the property and you're deferring that cost to much, much later, either for yourself or somebody else. Typically, most homeowners are not going to be in that same house for 20 years. But another factor comes up: if it's stained properly and you're not accelerating the age or lifespan of a masonry, as we see as this example here, when you sell the property, you could actually market as far as the house, it's been maintained properly and it's had a right application that was applied to the actual substrate. So that's another thing to consider. So what we're trying to do is trying to get the message across for masonry preservation, so then products like Loxon are not getting used over and over. Another example I'll show you is you could even apply these to Hardie boards. See, you have a much more of a matte looking finish. And that's equally important too, is you're going to achieve a more natural look. And again, the Waterglass is going to age much slower. So the actual earthen pigment is going to allow where this product could get 15 to 20 years, even in my market of Florida, for example. The other thing is it's much more water vapor permeable, which means you're going to get at least 6 times more breathability. At the end of the day, a cement fiber, as the words intended, is made out of cement. There's other particles that are made in the Hardie board or cement fiber boards, but at the end of the day, you still have a cement-based product or masonry-based product that still breathes in and out, if you will, when it comes to moisture content. So our products are very versatile. You could actually, with our Fixativ, you could dilute them, as you see here. So you could dilute it up to 90%. This is probably closer to 50 or 60%, and that's a solid opaque finish. So there's a lot of different things that you could do with our coatings. People send us bricks or little blocks like this to color match. And if you notice, you see a little bit of transparency in this one. What we've done is we color match to the black that the client specified, where the orange is still coming through a little bit. So these are things where we could use these types of stains on these products. But our message is to get the point across, and Loxon, the Benjamin Moore products, the PPG, they're not really intended on masonry. Yes, you could put it on, but the water vapor transmission is going to be minimally 5 to 6 times reduced of what the silicates are going to achieve. And lastly, when it comes to Hardie boards, it's also meaning the silicates are non-combustible. So Not only is the earthen pigment colors that we use are non-combustible because it's pulled directly from the ground, the actual water glass component is also non-combustible, which is a great feature. And at the end of the day, the best of all is that these products are eco-friendly. So we're not using any harsh chemicals. We're not using any solvents that's oil-based. It's simply water glass with a few ingredients in a nutshell. Hopefully this has been a little bit more instructional for you if you're deciding to do a future brick or masonry stain project. And should you have any questions, please reach out to us. Our direct email is info@mineralstains.com.